Everyone's been waiting for this. The Feds just hinted that rate cuts are coming. But here's what almost no one is saying. That could actually send home prices up again. Rate cuts might actually make you feel like you're getting a shot again, which is honestly the goal. But they also bring the competition that you thought you left behind in 2021. I'm talking about home prices increasing quickly, offers being over asking about 10 to 20%, less inventory, more buyers, like also investors like Wall Street. And hopefully no bidding wars come back again. But if you're still asking yourself, should you wait till rates drops even further to finally buy a home? You need to watch this video because you might be setting yourself up to lose even more buying power later. As I was researching and beginning to create this video, all I can ask myself was this one question. Why now? Why are the Feds starting to cut their rates now? Right before the slowest season in the real estate market? Something doesn't add up here. I understand that the Feds just saw the jobs report, which literally ignited them to change direction entirely. But it just seems so odd because it's not like the real estate market has changed its dynamics to begin with. I'm talking about sales were already slow. Inventory is already taking longer to go ahead and sell. Homes were even getting price cuts. If you ask me, the real estate market was already getting its butt whooped, which comes to no surprise to many of us. Even then, I know a lot of homeowners in this exact scenario that I am going to mention that is not going to help the real estate market at all. So the Fed's cutting rates, is that really going to help? Maybe for the short term, but the long term is not. In the scenario I was mentioning is a friend of mine recently put his home on the market and not too long ago took it off for whatever reason. And I asked him, I said, why'd you bother taking it off the market if you know you want to sell? He says, listen, I have a low rate and I'd much rather wait than to sell my home at a loss and then to go ahead and buy another home at a 6, 7, whatever the mortgage rates are at the current moment. In fact, Americans are moving less than any time in modern history, therefore making the inventory even tighter, which may even force more affordability issues. So to all my buyers out there, it's not just you feeling the pain, homeowners as well are feeling it as well. And honestly, it's restricting them from even making some moves that they even would like to make. Maybe because they are taking advantage of their low rate or simply because they can't afford it. If you ask me, the Fed's cutting rates right now seems a bit odd in stage in my opinion, only because what the real estate market was experiencing, nothing has really changed. But what do you think? Will the rates and affordability improve enough for current homeowners to actually want to sell their homes? Let me know in the comments below. So here's why I believe home prices won't go down, especially if we start entering a rate cutting environment. For starters, when rates come down, what typically happens is a lot of buyers begin to either consider or actually jump into the market, which is increasing demand, which I think is phenomenal. But when you actually consider that the United States is short about 4 to 5 million homes, unless if someone can magically create all those homes overnight, we're still going to be stuck in the same situation. Therefore, forcing prices to go literally in one direction.
Down, yeah.
But seriously, interest rates influence affordability, whereas inventory, that directly impacts prices. Hence why you may have been seeing prices drop in some areas that may have been a little bit oversupplied. Like Florida and Texas have already been experiencing a housing correction, which I'll show you some other areas that are experiencing price declines later in this video. But again, that is mainly because those areas are oversupplied and buyers are sitting on the sideline. When you have no buyers and the inventory isn't moving, the only other thing you can really do to entice buyers to get into the market is reduce the prices. So if inventory is the real problem, what can you do about it to prepare yourself or even position yourself to go ahead and purchase? Unfortunately, I have great news here, which is you can't do anything. Absolutely nothing. It's literally all in the builder's hands to be able to provide this inventory to the market. Sure, interest rates may at least encourage current homeowners to forget their low rate and actually decide to move to bring a little bit more inventory in the market. But again, that's not a guarantee to occur. The only real solution here is for builders to continuously to build. But of course, finding that fine line and fine position or place where it becomes or can be affordable. So if you're really waiting for a perfect interest rate, I'm sorry to say, but it's going to be a waiting game that who knows how long that's going to actually take. And in today's market, after 5 years, the inventory just passed what 2020 levels look like. Despite the back and forth between interest rates and inventory, while all of this is occurring, I want to point something out here. Nationally speaking, home prices are up 1% year over year according to Redfin. In fact, here are some real estate markets experiencing falling prices. And as you can see, the only areas that have home prices still really either stable or rising, but at slower pace, is the Northeast and the Midwest. So sure, interest rates have a way of affecting affordability, but in my personal opinion, inventory is always going to be king to directly impact the prices and affordability. It just may take a little bit longer than we all would like. I mean, just look at what's going on in the Northeast and the Midwest and really ask yourself, how are those markets still doing so well in this environment of high mortgage rates? I understand you probably thought rates coming down is going to be a phenomenal thing, which it is in the short term, but in the long term, we still have a bigger issue, which is inventory is not where it needs to be. Unless if, like I said, inventory can magically come up here, 4 to 5 million homes missing right now. It can appear on the housing market. I think this is still going to be an ongoing issue, I would say, until that issue gets solved first. So if you are looking for a real estate agent in your local market to either help you strategize or even help you better understand what's going on in your local market, be sure to click the link in the description below. That way I can connect you to a real estate agent in your local market. Because here's another thing that may happen, and I've been screaming this at the top of my lungs for you guys to really take advantage of, because it doesn't have to be here forever, and that is the builders stopping giving everybody free stuff. So all those buy downs, the rate buy down specifically, paying for closing costs, free upgrades, yeah, it all sounds good, right? But all of them could truly indeed vanish, especially if rate cuts start to really favor the builders nowadays. I spoke actually with the builder rep just the other day, and we were talking about their incentives and things like that that they're offering. Not so much about what may occur, because no one really knows. All it takes is for one person to pull the trigger and say, hey, take that off. We're not doing that anymore as a marketing tactic to be able to help buyers get into these homes. But this guy literally told me, and these are home prices in the 300s, let's just say 350s to 400s to be specific. And they were offering a 4.99 rate with 10K of closing costs to use how you would like. I mean, at that point in time, your closing cost is practically taken care of. If you may have to come out of maybe a couple of dollars, depending on exactly what's the scenario. But those are the sort of incentives that I'm talking about, that if they go, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, you guys need to take advantage of this stuff because it won't be here forever. And if we really start entering that rate cut environment, honestly, personally speaking, I do see more buyers coming into the market, so I do see the builders removing that. And if you're still trying to really understand what builder incentives are even being offered in your area, go ahead and click the link in the description. That way I can connect you to an agent and you can get a better sense of what's happening there. But back to the $1 million question, should you wait till rates drop further to finally buy a home? Which, don't get me wrong, that's a very valid question, and I don't think anybody but yourself could really answer that. But if you do want to keep track of what may actually change the direction of these mortgage rates, the best thing that you can look at is economic data, inflation data, and job reports. All those things can influence the direction of mortgage rates. Or what you can do is just stay tuned here. Stay tuned on this channel. I'll forewarn you when things are looking good or even looking bad. So go ahead and subscribe, comment, like, do all that good stuff. Not for me, but for everybody that needs to see this video. So with all this going on, my suggestion, this is a real estate agent suggestion, so if you don't want to hear what I have to say, go ahead and skip this part. But start getting yourself prepared now. Or you can honestly just be ready and sit in the sidelines. And when I say ready, I'm talking you have your finances in order. You know exactly who you're going to reach out to. You have your lender. Maybe you already have a pre-approval, which if you do, great. Now you really know what dollar amount you can actually shopping. And if you don't want to look at the economic data, that is perfectly fine. You can leave it up to me and I'll be sure to inform you. But the one data point I really want you to pay attention to for your local market is the inventory. If that number is rising, that's good for you. But if that number is decreasing, that is not so much good for you. So you're going to want to really take a peek at that. In fact, since you stayed to this point of the video, I like to look at this website here to go ahead and inform you on how inventory is doing. And you can definitely toggle to your specific metro area to go ahead and see what inventory is doing, just to keep track over at least month over month. So we've talked about prices, inventory, and rates, but there's still one thing that could really blow up in your face, especially if you don't pay it any mind, which is homeowners insurance. Yes, that's still a bottleneck to many individuals, especially if you're in a climate risk zone. So while you're on your home ownership journey trying to find the home that you're going to purchase in, or even the place that you want to purchase in, please keep this in the back of your mind, because you may find yourself in a position where if it's hard or even expensive to get coverage, then you may find yourself in a position where you don't even want to move forward at all with purchasing a home. If you are looking for a real estate agent that understands this market and can help you create a strategy for your local market, be sure to click the link in the description below. That way I can connect you to one of our referral partners. Because if you start doing what everybody else is doing, which is waiting for interest rates to drop, which may be smart, but in a low inventory environment, it can leave you chasing prices with less time to negotiate and even think about your decision. Drop your thoughts in the comments. As a buyer, do you think rate cuts are a blessing or a trap? But thank you all for watching. My name is Roney Polynice. Consider subscribing, and always remember, I got your back.